What's going on, guys? Jake here from Hooks and Tanks again. I wanted to make a video kind of doing a little review on this tank that I bought recently. It is a topfin retreat. It's the 5-gallon tank. I just wanted to give you guys a little list of pros and cons on it. So if you do want to buy this tank, because it is a very cool little setup, that you'll know kind of what you're getting into before you spend the money. Even though it's kind of inexpensive, it's still nice to know what you're investing money into. So you're going to see the fish kind of hiding, or you can see the Oscar is pouting because I did a water change a little bit ago and I put everything back in place because he likes to move everything around and he's mad that I moved all of his stuff. And there is a new friend in that tank, but I don't think he's going to show himself right away because he's still getting comfortable, so I will talk about him in a later video. But anyway, so we'll start with the cons. The first thing is, and this is a very minor problem that I have with the tank, is if you notice that I have the greenhouse siding on the top, there is a gap, as you can see on the corner here, that is about, I don't know, a centimeter to 2 centimeters depending on where it is on the lid, that separates the lid from the side of the tank. Now, it's not a big deal unless you have very small fish that like to jump, which the new member, who I can kind of see, but I'm going to keep him a little secret until the next video, can make their way out and jump. They will, and they are pretty able to with that little gap as long as they're small enough. But the big thing is, if the tank is not in a temperature controlled area, like most people would have this tank like in their bedroom where it's nice and warm, or in a living space where people see it and it's heated well, where I have the tank, it is very cold. And so having to heat the water for the Oscar and the other fish that's currently in there, it's kind of hard when the evaporation of the water, because it's hot and it's cold, going out to keep it from happening, and the temperature of the water being cooled by the temperature of the room. So that's a little flaw, but nothing too bad. Another minor thing that I noticed is where the water is drawn into the little pump in there. It's kind of right at the bottom of the tank, so substrate, you can only put a very thin layer in there. As you can see on my clown knifefish tank, I have about a 2 to 3 inch layer, and yes, of course he has to show himself because he's hungry. About a 2 to 3 inch layer, the whole way across here. I can only put about a half an inch, just because I don't want it to get drawn in there and then have a bunch of sand sitting down in the bottom. Which brings me to the biggest problem that I have with this tank, is this area back here. Now, I love the design of how they kind of hid this whole thing. They put the output right there to give you some water retention and flow through the tank. And I love the drawing in down there, and it comes with the pump, with the tank. But the problem is that the area in which all that is hidden, I'm not going to lift it up because I have to move on the lid. But if I can point to it, back here, your pump's down there, your tubing that goes up to your piece right there is all back there, and water sits in there. And also, if feces and, detritus and things like that slip through there and they happen to get under the filter pad and media that's in there, they sit. And I noticed that this tank does collect a smell. Now, obviously, with less waste produced in fish, you're not going to get this as much. Having an Oscar in here, Oscars are extremely messy and just make a wreck of any tanks, so he produces a lot of waste, and I'm doing frequent water changes. This isn't his permanent home. Obviously, it's a quarantine tank for the next couple of weeks, but irregardless, it traps waste in there, and you do have to, when doing water changes, stick a very small python down in there and to bring all of that detritus and junk out. But discovering that now, it's much easier to realize what's going on in the tank and why it's smelling the way that it's smelling, because it did create quite the smell. So that's about it on the cons. Very minor things, just things you kind of have to learn and adjust to depending on the fish you're keeping and temperature you want the tank at. Now the pros, obviously this is a very cool little tank. It all comes as one piece, the light, the little pump in there, and everything like that. You do have to buy your filter pads, but they're $4 for a box of 2 of them. And if you don't have big fish like I'm quarantining and growing out here, one pad will last you a month, even with water changes. So that's no big deal. and obviously it's like such a sleek little, off the bottom, doesn't sit flat down. The light is wonderful. Now I wish it did have a nighttime setting, but that's no big deal. This light actually, I feel as though is strong enough that it could grow plants. So once these fish are quarantined and out of here and grown out enough to where Mr. Grumpy Pants over there, who's hiding because I haven't fed him yet, won't try to hurt them or kill them, I will probably put different fish in here. But and have the ability to grow plants, because this light is, I mean, if I have to scrub the glass in this tank probably once a week because it creates algae, and it definitely puts out a good bit of lighting that I feel would sustain life for, very easy to care for plants. Now I wouldn't obviously put very difficult plants in here because it's a very small tank and the conditions would be a little more difficult to control than a bigger tank, but that's definitely something I want to do in the future once these fish are grown out and ready to go. And yeah, it seems like there were more cons than pros, but really they were very minor things. I enjoy how they did the output here, that's completely adjustable. You can move it to any which way. You can have the water surface, the tension on the water surface very hard, or you can have none at all. You can have it aimed down to create circulation to get everything to go around to the input. But so yeah, I think it's definitely a cool little tank. For me, like a 4 out of 5. It definitely is worth buying for the money. I got it on sale obviously, so I couldn't pass up the deal. But yeah, definitely a cool little tank. So it's a topfin 5-gallon retreat. Usually at PetSmart if they're local to you, wherever you're watching this from. So, but anyway guys, that's all for this video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and I will see you in the next video.